Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Please continue to help out the victims of the California wildfires and the Texas floods. They really do need our help. Also, if you get the opportunity, go to the GoFundMe. Go to GoFundMe, and in the search window, type in either Joseph Calvo or Life with Joey Calvo, because we are in the process of getting this show syndicated, but we need help. So all donations are really appreciated. The link is actually in the ticker down the bottom. So definitely click on that link and, share it with everybody, please, because it's really, really important. And I really want to get this really out to like Atlanta, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Boston, maybe even out to Walla Walla, Washington eventually, and Seattle, definitely Seattle as well. So today we have Dr. Rosenna Bakari, and just bear with me, I have to get my cheat sheet. Her story about choosing moment over stagnation, even when the next step wasn't guaranteed. She said yes to marrying her husband after 6 months of dating. Gee, I said yes. I proposed to my ex 3 months after dating. That's crazy enough. And moved across the country. That was 35 years ago and still going strong. So within 4 years, she had 2 toddlers toddling around the house, and then made another bold move, packing up to pursue Ph.Ds together while homeschooling the same toddlers. And, not a lot of couples will do that. So, Dr. Bakari, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited. Looking forward to this conversation.
Okay, so mainly you're going to just tell us right now what led to that craziness I just said.
So there's some good and bad in that, I guess. Part of it that led to it was sometimes when you don't have the full confidence and belief in yourself, you place it in somebody else. So that was part, if I'm being truthful and authentic and honest about it. And so me not having a great sense of what I never had these bold, big dreams, right? My husband did. So I didn't give myself time to develop those dreams until I was into all this stuff that you talked about. And so in that sense, it was easy. Not recommended.
Yeah.
Not recommended.
Yeah.
But that's part of what led to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it out.
Okay. So it took a little time. But like you said, yours was 6 months, mine was 3. And I actually I'm not saying I regret my marriage. Unfortunately, she cheated on me. Actually, she had cheated on me before we even got married, because she had cheated on the guy she was with me, and then wound up cheating on me while married with someone else, and it went down the line. And something not the greatest happened. And who did she turn to on that but me? And I was like, okay, this happened. All I could do is, be there. That person does not know that at the time that he came around, she was actually still married. So, and he won't know. Because to him, I'm Mr. Joe. So, and he's now 15 years old. So I'm not saying I'm prepared if that day ever comes that he does come to me, once he's 18 and comes to me and says, hey, what happened? Why did this happen? And so on, I mean, that would be more up to his mom than me, of course. But, I'd have to be prepared if it does happen. But that's a whole different story. So you met this great guy. You got engaged after 6 months. You've been together 35 years. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And let's see, what else can we go off the cheat sheet with? So your life was defined by internet intentional leaps, and you were buying houses sight unseen. You were like, okay, we're going for it, and didn't even look to see if there was like a mouse problem or a bed bug problem or anything else. We're just like gung ho. Sounds like you're an Aries in reference to that. I had to be funny on that in reference to it. So, and then you lived apart. Can you explain why that happened?
Yes. So my husband and I put a lot of faith in each other. Okay. And one moment is to say it's important that you marry somebody that you really do trust and can put a lot of faith in. So this was years after marriage. And we've done this a couple of times where now after our children are grown. So we didn't do that when we were taking care of kids. But once our children were out of the house and I had done all this, follow his dreams, and then I get whatever's left of my life. Right. And now there were no children and he was still moving on. And at some point I just said, I think I'm ready to have dreams of my own now. Yeah. And so once I did that and I wasn't so committed to just being where he was, we just decided, well, you go be where you need to be and I go be where I need to be. Right. And so sometimes that led to us living apart as long as 15 months. In fact, during COVID, we didn't see each other during COVID for 9 months because of the quarantines. We didn't plan that part, but it just happened when it hit. We were in two different places, so we couldn't travel to see each other. But that's the beauty of being in a relationship long-term with somebody that you trust. You keep your lives separate enough to know that love doesn't require you to be in the same space or to be one.
Okay. And so, despite that, you have the Ph.D. in psychology. You stepped away to be a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. And, like I said, the two of you separated, not, physically, marriage-wise, but, career-wise. Career-wise, yeah. And so your newest book is called 7 Exits, Leaving Behind What's No Longer Serves You. Can you explain what it's all about?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So, again, I'm a psychologist. I'm an empowerment psychologist, and most of my career has been spent on supporting people to move forward or return to their authentic selves. And so 7 Exits is the notion that it's not that personal development is not about getting somewhere. Ultimately, it's about your ability to leave where you are. And so the notion is that it doesn't matter where you want to go or what transportation you have to get there. If you cannot leave where you are, then that's what keeps you stuck. No, it's not that you don't know your way. It's not that you can't get there. The problem that people run into is that they don't know how to leave where they are, meaning they don't know how to give up the ideologies that they carry that keep them stuck. They don't know how to leave the relationships, even if that means living apart from somebody that you love to get where they need to go. They don't know how to give up their usual patterns and behaviors to get where they need to go. So it's not that they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to leave.
Okay. I'm going to ask you for your permission to pick your brain and give you a scenario.
Okay.
And actually, this scenario is kind of my reality.
Fun, Joey.
Because I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression back in 2009. And when I was younger, I was, picked on, bullied, and all that because, I didn't feel accepted. And how, I mentioned earlier in reference to my marriage, that, I was cheated on. Matter of fact, every relationship I had, I was cheated on. So I didn't feel, it was like I wasn't feeling loved. And so I started building or attempted to build myself up. And I got through different psychologists and therapists and all, they kept saying is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Which I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, if you're asking me what I'm going to do, why am I bother seeing you? So I finally grabbed it by the horns myself this time. And I started my little journey this past month. And the first step I took was I started going to church for the first time since 2009. And I've been very proud of myself for that. And so I started pulling in a little bit of Kirk Franklin with his song Smile. It's like I have to play it. Unfortunately, I haven't played it in 2 days, but I need to play it because that beat just gets me going. But in reference to the relationship side, there's going to be a little cloud, that I will always have. I don't mention it on this podcast, but so right now everything is feeling good. I'm starting to feel upbeat. I'm starting to have a little confidence in myself, a little self-esteem. And everything that I mentioned that's going on with this podcast just went through the water, just really blew out of the water. And especially like matter of fact, even when you came out to me the first time back in May to come on this podcast, I had a mega booking blitz. If I showed the list, I had like over 100 some people all at one time. And, I was just like blown out of the water. Like I just couldn't believe it. And so, I was like really, and so the issue is in reference to, I still have the quote unquote mood swings. Mm-hmm. And I still have the emotional, wish somebody was here, the loneliness part. So, that's the only thing that's really pulling down this journey. And so, I reach out to my quote unquote friends because it's like, I really need help, How would you look at it in reference to, through the book of the direction I should continue to go with this?
Right. So the book is 7 X's because it looks at 7 different areas. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've had to learn that it took me a while to really get was this idea of pain point. Mm-hmm. And the pain point is rarely the problem. It's just the pain point. So just like when you go to the doctor, like mm-hmm. now, I just came from a physical therapist, right? There's something wrong with my hip, and I tell him where it is, and he's always has to reiterate for me 10 more times. I know that's where it hurts, but that's not where the problem lies.
Right.
Right. And so for many of us, we keep trying to fix where the problem lies. Mm-hmm. But that's why the 7 X's is so important, because it's like going to the physical therapist or the physician that says, no, your body is a system. I'm saying, no, how we show up in the world is based on a system, not just based on relationships, right? Mm-hmm. So oftentimes people want to fix, but no, I just want to know how to do this. I just want to know how to lose weight. I just want to know how to find love. I just want to know how to get the perfect job. But it's like, if that's your main struggle, it may be where your pain point is, but that's not where the problem is. The problem probably lies in one of these other areas, 7 areas. And so we start working on the whole system.
Okay. Can you explain those 7 areas?
Yes, I can. So, and it'll take too long to go through all of them. But so, for example, the first one is most important, and they do build on one another, right? And so the first one is hyperego. That is super important. And I start with the hyperego because that looks at what are we doing for our defenses? Because we all have ego, because that protects us from feeling too down on ourselves or feeling too critical. So we all use ego to protect ourselves. I'm talking about hyperego, when the ego gets involved, even when it's not necessary, which is most of the time it's not necessary.
Right.
And so the first exit is being aware of your ego or hyperego and how your ego is protecting you. And so it gives you an example of a list of ego defenses that we tend to use. And it's like, if you can get a hold of and actually notice when you're using hyperego, you start to move back to your authentic self and see what it is. So, for example, if your hyperego is introjection, right? This idea that you take on whatever your environment dictates to you. So if you walk in a room and everybody's crying, even though you've had a great day, suddenly you feel overwhelmed with emotion and you're crying, even though that had nothing to do with you. Right. And vice versa. So introjection is one of the ego defenses that a lot of us use if we've had experiences, for example, of trauma or being disempowered as we're young, and we then learn that, for example, knowing how other people feel and what other people want is more important than knowing ourselves. Then we're more likely to take on the hyper ego defense of introjection, right? Denial. And so we're like, let's just pretend like this doesn't exist, or it's not going to hurt me, or like, so there's a list of ego defenses. If you can understand which one you're likely to use, just so you can begin to be aware of it. Oh, I'm having that feeling again where I just said that because they said that, or I'm trying to please them, or I'm trying. And so you just begin to that's
kind of where I was going. All I was trying to do is just be accepted, back then. And like, it took, 45 years for that to happen, to where now, matter of fact, most of those people that, put me down and, picked on me and actually actually seeing who I really was are like now friends on my Facebook page. And I'm like, and I mean, the first thing I did, even in reference to it, was I was like just forgiven. I was like, you know what? You did this. I'm okay with it. But if it was me doing something to myself, it's like, not allowed. And I was at the point where I was going to self-isolate and push everybody away and said, you know what? You all have your lives. You don't need, I'm just an inconvenience. Let me step out of the way. And the one person right now that's really been a support has been the one that's believing in me. Is like what you and your husband did, in reference to your degrees, with that way, So I'm trying to bring that way a little bit closer. So in reference to that, yeah. So that was one thing. So continue on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject in reference to that, but I figure as you're going through each one, I'm thinking of like, okay, where am I at in this stage? You know?
Right. Right. So that's the first one is hyperego. The second one is silence and secrecy. So a lot of us keep trying to move ahead, but we keep bumping into that secret we're carrying or that silence we're carrying. And when we do, we don't realize that this is not, we start to shrink ourselves. What if, or maybe I'm not good enough, or I mean, even if you were, for example, trying to keep secret that your wife cheated on you, had an affair. Well, so now I'm not going to have conversations about relationships. Now I'm not going to, because you're trying to protect something that doesn't need to be protected. And so the second exit is, are you willing to let go of the silence and secrecy that keep you bound? Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I am working on, is the transparency on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then the third exit is emotional dependency. This is the one that people get caught up on. They call it love. They call it loyalty. They call it commitment. Oftentimes, no, it's emotional dependency. You're not ready to exit the realm of emotional dependency. You think that the people that you love need to go with you on this journey to the next phase. They may not. Right. That's where it was really important when my husband and I decided it's okay if we don't live together for a period of time. Right. We're two individual people who love each other. That does not require us to be one person and act one. We did that for years. It worked out well for us. We don't have to commit to that level of commitment, which means we have to both each be willing to grow into a bigger area of emotional independence from each other in order for us not to go crazy because we weren't together every day. Right?
Okay. And that's the one thing that in reference to this one person that's really been a support. I mean, it's a distance right now, but not, I mean, it's like I want to see this person physically at least once. To even just appreciate what they've done. So, I mean, once that's done, I'm like, okay, we can continue the distance part. As long as I got to see you and spend time with you physically, you fulfilled that circle, fulfilled that, that want. So that's my only, what you would say, the emotional dependency in reference to it. But continue on. I'm sorry.
No worries. So then the next exit is stagnant relationships. That probably speaks for itself, right? Again, oftentimes we want to hold on and cling to these relationships that we admit are not in our best interest. And oftentimes it doesn't mean leaving the relationship. Oftentimes it means reinventing how you show up in that relationship. That's super important. We can exit stagnant relationships without exiting the relationship. We can just exit the stagnancy part of it. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, practically what I literally say is, if you feel that it's not right, let me know. And then if you want to walk away, the door has been open. I leave that door open for them to exit. And I will say that in reference to over the past 15 years, I've left that door wide open. And you know what? Nobody wants to leave it, no matter how complicated things are. They still are like, we're here with you. We want to be with you. You show this, and I'm not going to let you go. But at the same time, I'm like feeling like, okay, you're in this complicated relationship because either there's another part to them that you're aware of, and you're just afraid that it's going to cross over, or you feel that the person that you really want to be with, they say they want to be there for you, but just want to keep the distance and don't want to go any further with it, and just want to stay like a friends thing, but you wind up wanting more. So it's like, if you don't feel comfortable with it, like I said, the door's open. You can walk right out, let me know, and I will stop. I mean, I will let you go, and I will just either move on or just self-implode. One of the two. So, but I appreciate as you're giving each of these each of these exits me the opportunity to expand with it, because it is kind of helping me and giving me the ideas and bringing it out, and like I said, picking your brain on it.
Yeah, great. The thing about relationships to remember is that especially when we're talking about stagnant relationships, is that there's two people, and oftentimes the challenge is that we want to be in a relationship with somebody that we see is capable of serving our needs. Mm-hmm. But that's really not what relationships are for.
Right.
Relationships are built to express your love, not to earn it, not to develop it or give you. But it's like when two healthy people show up to share, that's how you build emotional bliss, right? But when you show up where one of the people is showing up to get because they somehow need somebody to complete them, then that's when you run into trouble. And so just keeping those lines open so that you're very clear about what I want you to bring versus what I'm bringing for myself.
Right. Okay. So continue on to the next.
Yep. So the next one is complacency. This is another one where people get stuck with good enough, because the next stage, if you haven't done those other four things, if you haven't made those other four exits, you will be complacent. This here is good enough, because where I want to go next will require me to give something up that I'm not ready to give up.
Yeah.
So then you become complacent.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I will say in reference to my relationships is I will be there for you. That's the relationship with me is, if you're going to be in a relationship with me, whatever you're doing, let me be there to help support you. And at the same time, if you support me, let's work together as one. And, so that's one definite thing in the relationship I really work on, is being that support and being, that cheerleader, quote unquote, and saying, you got this, you got this, you can do it. I believe in you. And those are the main words I go by, is I will always believe in you 100%, no matter what happens. Even if you walked out the door and told me that, this is going to work out, I will still believe in you, even as you walk out the door, because I appreciate everything that has been done.
Yep.
So that should fall into the complacency very well, doesn't it? Okay, continue on. I'm sorry.
So complacency and everything you say can fall right into the next exit of indoctrination. And that's where we get stuck with the beliefs that that we've been introduced to in the world, the beliefs, the thoughts, the ideology, whether they be from religion, from your parents, from your professional field, from the circle of influence that you're in. We carry these into it. So again, if I were to believe that husband and wife must be together, that's what God brought you together. You can't live apart. Then I have a whole different scenario going on right now. Mm-hmm. Right. So what are the beliefs that you may have to drop or leave or put to the side in order to become reintroduced to your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm doing it because somebody else told me to believe this, instead of something that I authentically believe myself, maybe I've tested it, maybe I've seen it, maybe I've had this idea, but I can't get there because I'm so busy living my life according to the beliefs and ideology that are simply handed down to me through systems.
Mm-hmm. And like you were saying in reference to spiritual, like I said, going back to church for the first time since 2009, and having that feeling that God kept this one door open for me with this one person that's been the support that I've been talking about all along, and in a distance, I'm keep working within that, but at the same time trying to encourage, well, maybe not encourage, but try to attempt to maybe blend in the other end, which now I'm probably realizing is not the greatest idea, is to just let them bring themselves in. And I feel like I have, but it's like, as I feel like I'm letting them bring it in, it's like I'm starting to push, like, we got to get more into it,
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that's not the greatest thing to, indoctrinate into a relationship, but how can, like, in reference to that, what kind of, I don't want to put up any more borders than I did. I don't want to put up any more roadblocks, anything, because I'm tired of the roadblocks. I'm tired of everything, I've done in the past. I'm tired of being the woe is me and, all this stuff. And really, like I said, since this journey started, it's like I said, I just had that, it's just the loneliness. How can I squeeze out the loneliness in the indoctrination process?
Right. So really exploring what would it mean for you to approach the loneliness from an interpersonal perspective. Like, what if you went within to start to fulfill that? Not that people aren't important in our lives. People are really important in our lives, but sometimes, often, the loneliness comes from the feeling, the sensation of loneliness comes from some very old wounds of abandonment, of not feeling enough. And sometimes when you heal those wounds or begin to heal those wounds, then what happens is that you create more space for people to enter your life.
Right.
But what happens is that when we feel that sense of loneliness, then when someone shows up, we assign them a role that they haven't agreed to.
I'm starting to see that now, because in reference to the one person, it's like it's like I'm pushing them, and it's like I regret it, and it gets to the point where I want to walk out the door because I'm like, you shouldn't be treated like this, and I'm really been catching, like I said, I'm catching these things. If somebody tells me, that I'm really being pushy, or, I'm doing this, I'm like, you know what? Thank you for telling me. I'm going to leave because I don't want to make things worse. So, but when I've said that too, this person's like, why? Why do you want to leave? I mean, if they, when, I'm starting to realize they really want to get to know me. And this thing about, like I saying about, like I mentioned about the cheating, and, you're mentioning about the wounds. this is the main thing that I'm really dealing with, is the wounds that I had from the past of being cheated on, and really wanting to have a healthy relationship. And I mean, there's two people that want to be there for me, that really want to be there for me. But like I said, I mean, they're both in a complicated way right now. But at the same time, I need to learn some patience in reference to it. I mean, with the one, I mean, I used to see every day. Everything was great. So, I mean, that one is, okay. But the only problem now is the distance, because of this person was diagnosed with a disorder, and I barely can see them because of the complication, as compared to the other person who is there. And I still, there's times I want to question, do they really want to be there? Even through everything that I'm going through, do they really want to be part of my life? Do they really want to, be that support that they say they want to be? That like I mentioned earlier about, having that door wide open. I'm like, are you really going to stay in here? If not, say it now. Walk out the door now. I mean, don't, leave me hanging and saying, you're there, and then turn around and say, you know what, bye, because, and then, and I think what, in reference to that one and with the wounds, I was never told why they walked out the door. And I think that's the hardest part of the one end of the complicated relationships I'm having. So how can I look into that, and how can I, how can I attempt to pick it apart?
So looking at yourself versus looking at the relationship is really the key. Like, really, if we take all these other X's, that's why the book is so important, right? Because it really guides you as to look more clearly. It helps you look more clearly and honestly at these X's, so that you're looking at yourself. When you begin to learn and understand yourself and how you're showing up, then you can apply that understanding to, your relationships, to your family life, to your career. It's you. When you are really the subject of your life, when you make you the subject of your life, then you can apply it to all these areas of your life that you show up in, as opposed to trying to fix one area of your life. That's probably not really the problem.
Okay. So the wounds kind of like could be more than just from the being cheated on. I mean, I've had, I believe, if I can remember, some have said, that I'm too nice, or, I'm, and I used to, and then I even got one feedback in the past. I worked with the mentally disabled while I was married. And there was this one gentleman that I was taking care of. And it was like, if you put food in front of him, he would just stuff himself, like, constantly, like it was like, like it was never coming back. Like they weren't getting anymore. And I remember the supervisor telling me that I was literally overwhelming them, because I'm like, watching them constantly. But it was like you had to, in order to redirect him to slow down. Now, after leaving the job, I'm seeing that within my own self, because I'm feeling like I'm that person now that I was literally supervising and, thinking like there's nothing coming, like, and that I'm overwhelming myself even.
Yeah.
So, so what is the last exit?
The last exit is surprising to most people because it's exiting passion and purpose. Now, I don't mean getting rid of passion and purpose. It's really about exiting the pursuit, the obsessive pursuit of passion and purpose. This idea that it's one thing that's going to make you happy. So people sometimes treat passion and purpose the same way that they treat relationships. There's with this unrealistic expectation that if I just find my passion and purpose, I'm going to make all the money. I'm going to be happy. And it's a false pursuit. It doesn't happen. Even people who find their passion and purpose often are not happy, right? Which is why you have so many people.
And that's the feeling I get right now, because it's like I want the passion and purpose. I mean, I just had a guest on the other day who mentioned, things that, I would need to look at, like passion, purpose. Trying to remember how they stated it. I know it was purpose.
Your why. People say, find your why.
Yeah, it was like purpose. It's somewhere around here, but purpose was one of the items, and so I'm like, okay. Matter of fact, it was Monday night. Matter of fact, when I did that, in reference to it, and when this guest presented it, I was like, okay, so I need to look into that, because as I'm looking into that, I can see where, I'm going on some of these things. But it was like the three, I think, like I said, passion was, or purpose was one. And then, there was a couple others. Like I said, I wrote it down. I think I found it. No, that's not it. I wrote so many notes over the past couple. I lose track. But, so you're saying, in reference to it, I shouldn't look at this relationship in a passionate way. I should just look at it as a friendship way.
Right. Allow things to unfold, and finding the joy is this constant pursuit of something that comes from this sensation of lack that people carry. I lack love. I lack money. I lack. And so people are operating out of a sense of lack. Mm-hmm. And so then they're on the other side of that, this pursuing the ghost, right? So you're always ghost chasing something. And so empowerment and peace comes from accepting the moments as they arise and trusting these moments as they arise. It requires you to live with a level of trust that most people don't want to live with or struggle to live with, right? But when you let go of all the pursuits, and I don't mean, and here's the odd thing, when you let go of all that and you peel it back, then what you're left with is your authentic self that's going to taste great, like peeling an orange, right? Everybody's eating biting into an orange without peeling it, right? That's what we're living like. Right. We're biting into fruit without peeling it, and saying, oh, but if we peel it, we won't have anything left because the orange is bigger with the peel on it. Like, no, you peel the orange and then you eat the sweetness inside. Same thing with us. No, we peel back so we can get to the sweetness that's meant to be, that's meant to feed us. And so when we say don't pursue your purpose and passion, it's not because we don't want you to have purpose and passion. It's because when you stop the obsessive, unrealistic pursuit of it, you will find that it arises naturally.
Yeah, and that's something I need to learn, definitely, because Like right now, it's like I just have that urge, like, for that passion, because it's like I haven't had it in so long, and then it's like, once it happens, or I wind up having the thoughts of, I had this daydream where the person actually shows up, and everything I want to do doesn't happen, just doesn't happen, and it was like, and then like the feeling like, why did I just let this happen? What did I do? Or in reference to, like, say, an example, one thing I'm working on in reference to this podcast as well. I mentioned to our guest offline about the, being, possibly being syndicated in some different cities on the radio every week, once a week, of doing like a meet and greet. And there are times I build a picture, and I thank you and truly thank you for letting me, bring this and picking your brain on this, because, I most times that I ask that, I wind up finding out later on, I should have done this, or wind up, the guests wind up being uncomfortable, or they fell into a point where they like stepped over a line that they didn't realize. But the one thing I will say that I picture, this picture keeps coming into my mind so much. It's like the event happens for the day, and then after, at the end of the day, I go back to the hotel room where I'm having it, and I just stay in the room. And as much as I love the slot machines and stuff, I just get this tendency to just want to stay in the room. And then, the participants are like, well, why aren't you going out and having a good time and all that? I'm like, this isn't for me. I'm making this for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the fans, coming to see you and stuff. But there's no benefit to me outside of, making this happen for you and getting you, publicity and stuff. I do my part, and then I just go back and just like the self-isolation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, this picture keeps coming to my mind. What are your thoughts on that in reference to that?
Right. So one suggestion could be that you write down what you want. Like that's the picture, and allow the picture to happen. And it sounds like it's a pretty clear picture. And maybe write down a difference between the picture that you see and the picture that you want.
You know what? I actually do that. There's times I do have the opposite, where the one person that, I've been talking about comes, and it's just like, I just let loose, and wind up making it into something that I had wanted a long time ago, instead of what the sea. So I've done the opposite picture too.
Right.
And I had those thoughts, but at the same time, it's like every time I see the two, it's like, the sea is like kind of how I wind up feeling.
Right.
As much as I want that other picture,
right,
of the passion and the love and the just letting everything out and just going wild and having like the craziest night in the world. So like I said, I've seen both in my head in reference to using that scenario event, in my mind.
So what would happen, Joey, if that your desired picture? What would happen if you replaced the picture that comes up? Typically, you just replace that image with your ideal. You literally just replace the image every time you get that image of the isolation. You replace it with your ideal image. Now, here's the tricky part.
Go for it.
You just replace the image, and then you begin to live your life as if that's what happened.
So what you're saying is think that it happened and then just let it go back to let everything happen as it happens.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Like, so I'm saying, take all the joy and all the passion and all the self-care that comes from that. Like, take all the emotion that comes with it and carry that into reality.
I want to interject on that. That want isn't much of self-care. It's more of the kind of the sexual passion, that type of want. That's, like I said, that was the issue of the want as compared to the C.
But it's okay. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's assume that you have that. Whatever that brought you, whatever it brought you, there's some feelings associated with that gets your endorphins going and get you excited about who you are. Take it. You're not trying to make it happen. You're trying to appreciate yourself as if it has happened.
Okay. So you know what? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that because I really am. And like I said, thank you so much for, letting me use myself as a scenario for this, because it's really, as we're talking, as you're explaining everything and I'm seeing these things, I'm like, you know what? I can do this. But at the same time, I'm going to keep the door open, because if they decide they want to leave, it's there. And I have said to even both ends of the spectrum in reference to it, I'm like, the door is open. If you decide that this is too much for you, go. Let me know. And that way you don't have to deal with me anymore in reference to it, Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you're going to stay, understand how I'm going to feel, because, there's so much that's going on, and I really sometimes will want, the physicalness eventually, because you can't show appreciation. You can't, I'm not saying I can't show appreciation virtually. It has to be physical, because if it's like, if I can't show it physically, then it's like a wound, So, and like you were saying about the wounds, it could be more than just one thing. And it's like with me, in reference to before even all this, I had the lowest self-esteem. I had no appreciation in myself. I had no confidence in myself. My ex-wife, you can tell her she's beautiful. Nope. She didn't want to hear that. She will tell you, she's like, no, I'm fat and I'm ugly. And then what happened was, we separate, and I kind of picked up her wounds, and I took them with me. I started to tell myself I'm fat and ugly, and, there, like when I'm out in society, I have those feelings. But now, over the past couple weeks, I'm out there, and I don't even think about the fat and ugly thing anymore. But what I do is I just like, if you ever come to Philadelphia, you definitely got to check out Rittenhouse Square. Rittenhouse Square, smack dab in the middle of the city. It's a park. It's got this beautiful fountain. It's got all these benches, and it's all surrounded in buildings. And so, in the corner of the building is the church that I've been going to. So when the service is over, I would normally like go home. No, I've now gotten myself to the point where like I need to enjoy the scenery that I'm in right now. Mm-hmm. So I will sit and literally, I could say meditate and look up in the sky, thank God for, being here and as much, see couples holding hands and, getting upset, I just feel that blessing, like, thank you for releasing me from some of these things. But at the same time, there's more to go. I actually call that a therapy session when I do it now. So a spiritual therapy session. So Dr. Bakari, how can people reach out to you?
7 Exits, spell it out, SEVEN, the word 7 Exits, and make sure exit is plural, .com. That's the easiest thing to remember. Or they can go to my personal website. You can reach me from 7exits.com. Anything that you put in there will come to me. But my personal website is my name. If they see my name, they can spell it out, RosennaBakari.com.
Okay.
So either one of those places is the easiest way to reach me. And I would love to hear from people.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And I, at the same time, I'm going to apologize if I did step into a boundary that may not been, suitable for you. But like I said, I've been doing a lot of picking brains because I really want to learn to be better in my life. And so I, like I said, picking all these brains and looking at, like I said, through the 7 exits, seeing, okay, I need to do this now to let everything go and be back to just, the person being a friend, then being more than that, even though I really want more than that eventually down the line. Yeah. But I have to let it happen. So, and that's, and to me, it's like the toughest thing because, I have, I don't know why I have the feeling like I don't have a lot of time left either. It's like, it's got to be done now, when I should be like back off on the time, like enjoy what you have. And so I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you so much for the advice. I truly appreciate that. You're welcome to come back on here anytime. Just let me know if anything new comes up because I'll be happy to, or even if you want to do a seminar, a webinar type thing on this, just reach out and say, Joey, I would like to, explain this more in detail and maybe see if anybody else would be interested in learning these 7 exits because I'm as I'm going through this journey, I'm seeing them. And I'm going to attempt to implement them the best I can. But I know I'm going to have some struggles because, of those wounds. So, but
that's what the book is for, to help you seal up some of those wounds.
Yeah. But thank you so much again for coming on. And definitely check her out. Go to 7exits.com. Dr. Bakari, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, everyone, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.